Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Me and Oscar are here again to talk about some fights. When are we not? But this weekend, we've got some great fights. A good main event, a really tricky one to pick. As Oscar notoriously says every week usually, a coin flip fight. And he's already told me this is a coin flip fight. So that's interesting. So, Oscar, how's it going over there in
Chicago?
I was going to say California, but, I always get it wrong.
Yeah, last weekend reminded us just how crazy this sport can be. Anybody can beat anybody in any way. It doesn't matter. And this weekend, we've got insane fights. This is a really underrated card. We're going to see Yuri Prochazka and Dominic Reyes go at it in the main event. And with that amount of firepower involved, it's bound to be a coin flip. So which side are you on in this coin flip?
Yeah, it's a tough coin flip if you ask me. You got the wild stance of Yuri Prochazka, what he's really known for. We saw that in his Ryzen fights where he knocked out CB Dollaway, a former UFC middleweight, stepped up 205 to challenge Yuri, and that wasn't a very good choice. And yeah, he's knocked out some good fighters on his record. King Mohamed Lawal, he's fought him twice. He's fought some good names, but it was really when he came to the UFC where he wanted to be tested. And in his debut, he got that Volkan Oezdemir fight. And Volkan Oezdemir, on his day, he could probably beat some of the best guys in the world. But Prochazka had his number and put the lights out, and that was a tough watch to see. Volkan Oezdemir put out cold like that. It was devastating. But yeah, he's wild, he's fun to watch, he's entertaining, which is probably why he's at the main event slot. But I'm going to go with Dominic Reyes in this fight. I think he rebounds after the Jan Blachowicz fight and the John Jones fight, which is arguably not lost and probably in his head. But mentally that could be a win. And but rebounding, bouncing back again over Blachowicz and losing so devastatingly in a main event for a title fight. How is he going to react in the main event versus Yuri? We don't really know. This is where we're going to get a lot of questions answered about Dominic Reyes. Will he be able to be a contender again? And the jury is going to answer all them questions. And he's definitely going to put the pressure on Dominic Reyes. But I think he's going to withheld the pressure in the first two rounds from Prochazka, and then Reyes, will sort of take over in the later stages.
Yeah, I agree there. We saw Yuri be very wild early in his fight with Volkan. He actually got tagged by Volkan early, which is why I was thinking I'm never going to pick this guy to win because this division has a ton of guys that can knock this guy out. But I heard his media day interview, and he said, I'm not going to be so wild. I really want to do well in this division. And that makes me a little nervous, but I'm still picking Dominic Reyes to win this because we know this guy. He's fought the best of competition. I'm talking the best. Former champions, John Jones, Chris Weidman, and the guy who beat Adesanya for the first time in MMA, Jan Blachowicz. So there's really nothing you can say about Dominic Reyes that will really discourage me from picking him here because the guy was undefeated, in my opinion, heading into the Jan Blachowicz fight. Sure, he got knocked out by the Polish power. Who doesn't? That guy has so much power in his fist, it'll knock out anybody. And Yuri Prochazka has a ton of power, and I would say it's very comparable to Jan Blachowicz. He's got 23 knockouts on his record, and only one win of his wins have been by decision. So it's very probable that Yuri could completely put his lights out. But I think Dominic Reyes is going to take a different approach to this fight. He has a lot of excuses for his loss to Jan Blachowicz. He said, "I had 6 weeks to prepare. I was preparing for John Jones. I changed my camp. There was a lot going on, and he mentally wasn't ready for that fight. And I think if he takes a different approach, if he fights very technically, he's going to get his hand raised because Yuri is going to be focused on the finish, and he might gas out early. We've seen Yuri be very durable. He can take a beating. But against Dominic Reyes here, I think he could overwhelm him. This is going to be a very back and forth fight, but I'm picking Reyes at a decision because King Mo, but it's going to be very close. Do you think Reyes can finish him?
I believe not. You mentioned there, Jiri is very durable. We saw that in the Vulcan Uzumi fight where he took some heavy shots from, Vulcan no time Uzumi. He hits like a truck too. We've seen him put the lights out of some of the best in the world also. But I think Jiri will be able to withstand them punches and be able to move forward. Jiri has been knocked out in the past though by Mohamed Lawal. And that I just saw that on his record. Maybe that's something we could probably take into account, but that was a very long time ago. So I probably don't see a knockout in this one. I'm going to go with Dominic Reyes, UD unanimous decision. I think he's going to take the later stages in this round, in this fight. I'm presuming he'll start to take over round 2. Maybe call round 3 really closely. That might be a controversial one, but round 3, 4, 5. I see the athlete Dominic Reyes taking over.
Yeah, I'm a fan of both of these guys. I think Reyes was thinking of the Jan Blachowicz fight as a victory lap with the John Jones fight. He was looking at it like, I'm just going to go and take what's already mine. And, he was overlooking Jan Blachowicz, who's a very tough veteran. And I can really tell that he's not overlooking Jiri here. So the different approach for Dominic Reyes should be enough here, but don't be surprised if Jiri straight up flatlines him like he's done to his past 9 opponents.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about an absolute banger of a main event that we're in store with. I feel like this is a very co-main event worthy. We're talking about Cub Swanson versus Giga Chikadze. That is an incredible co-main event. Killer Cub bouncing back after, what was it, the four-fight losing streak, bounced back against Kron Gracie, and then absolutely put the lights out against Daniel Pineda. And then we don't have to talk about Giga Chikadze. We know how good he is. He's a former Glory kickboxer, and I've always said if you're a former Glory kickboxer, you're absolutely amazing on the feet. You've got to have some sort of pedigree to even get into the Glory, and this guy came out of Glory, so he's currently 12-2 in his MMA career. He's on a good win streak at the moment, 32 years of age, versus the veteran Killer Cub. I feel like if they're both ranked now, actually. Killer Cub, Cub Swanson just got ranked at featherweight because Jeremy Stevens just got put out the rankings, presumably because maybe he's moving up to lightweight. I don't know whether that's a permanent move, but it looks like it. Cub Swanson, ranked number 15. Not off the top of my head, I'm not too sure where Giga Chikadze is ranked in the division. Might be 11, maybe 12.
He's actually like number 14. Number 14.
Number 14? Oh, yeah. Wow. So it's literally basically fighting for their rankings, almost, you could say. Cub Swanson versus the veteran versus Giga Chikadze, but we're seeing Cub Swanson look good in his last 2 fights, but I'm rooting for the youth in this fight. I think Giga Chikadze gets this one done and moves forward in the division. This guy is an absolute killer.
Absolutely. He was one of the few guys to get 4 wins in 2020. A lot of guys said, oh, COVID's going on. I'll stay away from the gym. I'll take it easy. And this guy did not take it easy. In fact, he fought several times during the Apex era in the UFC. And to be quite frank, his last one was against Jamie Simmons. That was kind of a setup fight, if you ask me. Simmons was very undersized. His stand-up did not even compare to Giga's. And that's why that fight was made a week before. So they were expecting just a little showcase for Giga there. And, of course, he did get that knockout. And I told you guys it would be a walk in the park. And it was. So I really didn't learn much about the guy from the win, but Cub Swanson really did show me a lot in his last fight. I picked against him in that fight. Pineda was very big. He was a very aggressive grappler who always chases the submission, and Cub Swanson was able to avoid those takedowns, and he did get his leg nearly kicked off. You could tell Pineda was attacking the injury of Cub Swanson, and I would not be surprised if Giga does the same thing here with those leg kicks. He's going to enjoy 4-inch reach advantage. He's got several inches of height on him here. He's a bigger guy. He's got much better striking, if you ask me. He's very technical striker. Even in the Erwin Rivera fight, he had him badly hurt. He didn't go all Cody Garbrandt on him. He stayed composed, and he he does not go for shots that aren't there. In the Omar Morales fight, Omar Morales came in undefeated, and I actually thought Morales would win because he's got a better ground game, and it really never went there because Giga never allowed it to. So I don't think Cub Swanson, being the older guy who's smaller, I don't think he can take it there against Giga, who's got Benil Dariush in his corner for him. So I think we're going to see Giga Chikadze light up Cub Swanson on the feet here and do it from distance. Do you think Cub Swanson has got a shot here?
Oh yeah, 100% he has a shot. If he can manage to get Giga Chikadze down to the mat, he has all the shot in the world. But as you mentioned there, the reach advantage, the height advantage, Benil Dariush, in his corner. This guy is one of the best BJ practitioners in the UFC right now. This guy's very slick on the ground. He's fighting soon against Tony Ferguson. This guy's one of the best we've seen at BJJ, and that's a great guy to have in your corner. And he's a lot of experience. He's been in there. He knows how to handle the situation. That's a really good guy for Giga Chikadze to have in his corner to talk him through it to what's happening play by play. But I think Giga Chikadze, I wouldn't say he's more hungrier. I think it's the youth will really shine through in this fight. I think he's going to be too quick for Cub Swanson. I think he's going to be maybe too powerful in this one. His kicks will come up like lightning speed. We've seen how quick his kicks are. As you mentioned there, Cub Swanson in the fight against Pineda, he's got his legs chopped in that fight, and I think Giga Chikadze is going to see that. And that's going to be an opening for Giga, and he will chop them legs all day long. This guy is a phenomenal kickboxer, and that's what I fully expect. I see this one going 3 rounds, though. I don't see a finish. I'm not too sure. This one gives me a feeling that this will go 3 rounds, will go to the judges' scorecards, and it's going to be in favor of Giga Chikadze.
Yeah, I actually thought Kron Gracie was going to strangle Cub when they fought, just because Kron had so much hype behind him. And Kron Gracie showed that he had really good striking that night. And Kron nearly won that fight. That was a very close fight. It was a fight of the night, and it was very exciting to watch those guys beat the crap out of each other. And I just think Giga Chikadze and Kron Gracie are much different in their striking. So, of course, Kron Gracie offered a tons of danger for Cub on the ground. Maybe that's why it didn't go there. So, that might be different, but he didn't wear those shots too well. So Giga probably takes this and in spectacular fashion. I don't think we'll see a finish, but we'll see many instances where Cub Swanson you can see visible damage on his body, particularly his legs, because that's going to be a big target for Giga here.
100% agree. I think Giga Chikadze gets this one done, and I think it goes to distance too. I think it goes to 15 minutes, but it's going to be an entertaining fight. Definitely watch this one. Giga Chikadze is one to keep the eye on 145 pounds, and they've got some really good fighters at 145. And if you just think about the future, the matchups this guy could have, and think about Yair Rodriguez, Zabit Magomedsharipov. They are some incredible fights that Giga has the potential in the future, but he has to get past Cub Swanson. I'm sure he's not overlooking him. But let's move on to the next fight that we have. Ian Kutilaga versus Dustin Jacoby, another former Glory kickboxer on this card. And he's taking on the Hulk, Ian Kutilaga, who's on a 2-fight losing streak. Yeah, that's the only way we should put it. The first fight, he did lose. And the second fight, Magomed Ankalaev put his stamp on it and said, yeah, that wasn't a fluke. He did lose that fight, and putting these absolute lights out in that with that tremendous left hook, put the lights out. Dustin Jacoby has since rejuvenated himself after going to kickboxing. Went over at Glory, had some great success over there, and then came back to MMA and kind of, sharpened up his game a little bit. And now he's back in MMA and he's back in the UFC after, I think it might have been a 7-year hiatus. It's great to see him back in his last fight against Justin Ledet, who's now a former UFC fighter, I think. Definitely, he got released in his last fight. Oh, Maxim Grishin in his last fight, and then one before that was against Justin Ledet. So, Grishin, he lost against Tybura. I can't remember who beat. But yeah, not much to really take away from that fight. Off the top of my head, I remember him striking wise. obviously he was brilliant. He looked great. Iron Kutilaga. This one's a bit of a tricky one. Who you going with, Oscar?
Of course, we did see Dustin Jacoby get dropped in the first round and nearly finished. I thought you could have scored that at 10-8, and that fight could have been a draw. That fight was very competitive and close. But later in that fight, we did see Jacoby implement some tremendous leg kicks, and he could do the same to Ion Kutilaga here, but it might be more the same for him in that first round because we know Ion Kutilaga. He's a monster. He's the Hulk. And you got to feel bad for him. He was chasing Magomed and Kaliv an entire year, and it really ended in the worst of ways for him. So he's going to be looking to bounce back here, but I don't think you should be looking to do that against a guy, Dustin Jacoby, who we said is a former glory kickboxer. He has excellent striking, and he's probably going to piece up Ion Kutilaga the later this fight goes. We've seen Ion Kutilaga fade later in fights, particularly you remember that Glover Teixeira fight where he had Glover in serious trouble, and Glover bounces back and gets the finish. It could be very similar to that. We've seen good cardio from Jacoby, except in his Contender Series debut. He was so tired from throwing every punch possible against Ty Flores in that fight. He did get tired, but a guy like Ion Kutilaga probably will go away. We're going to see a really good finish in the first finish of Jacoby's career here. And he's going to show that he's ready for a ranked opponent. And a guy that he already called out, Jimmy Crute. If he wins this, I think he deserves the Jimmy Crute fight after this.
That's a great fight, great matchup between some, two hot prospects. Jimmy Crute coming off against the Anthony Smith loss, but that's a great learning curve for Jimmy Crute. He'll definitely come back stronger. This guy has tremendous potential. So does Dustin Jacoby, even though he's in the late stage of his career, almost 33 years old now. Ion Kutilaga, still 27. I feel like this guy's been around for so long. He's been in the UFC for ages, but I'm not too sure off the top of my head when his debut was, but it felt like he's been around for ages. And maybe the experience might come into play, but let that be said, Dustin Jacoby has had a lot of experience too. This guy's been around. He's kickboxed some of the best kickboxers in the world, fought some of the best MMA fighters in the world. So I'm going to agree with you. I see Dustin Jacoby keeping this one at range. Ion Kutilaga, you've seen the Hulk. That's his nickname. If you see him at weigh-ins, he's always aggressive. I think in that first round, he will come out aggressive. Wouldn't surprise me if maybe he clips Dustin Jacoby and we've seen a kind of a repeat of the Grisham fight. Jacoby, gets knocked down but comes back in that second and third round. This guy's got a lot of durability. But yeah, maybe in the first round we see Jacoby get clips and Ion Kutilaga fading away in that second and third round. Justin Jacoby taking over with his kicks and his punches that's sticking at range, not letting Ion Kutilaga get close to him. That's how I see the fight going. But yeah, if he does win it, that Jimmy Crute fight is definitely a fight that I would love to see. I'd definitely entertain that.
Yeah, another fight I definitely want to see, Sean Strickland and Krzysztof Jotko. Strickland has looked like $1 million since he returned from that motorcycle accident, I believe it was. That was a scary little incident there for him, and I had a lot of doubts about him coming back for the Jack Mushman fight, where he was going up a weight class and he was coming off a long way off, but he looked excellent, so excellent. In the third round, he started talking to his opponent saying, "I'll give you a chance to win, just come forward." He was that confident. He was very loose, and when he went to 195 pounds to fight Brendan Allen, who's a grappler, Allen was having somewhat of a competitive striking match with him. Allen did not fight smartly that night, and of course Strickland took advantage of it, and we saw Allen fade in the second round, and he got knocked out, and that was very impressive to me because I did think Allen would strangle him. That was not the case there, and Strickland continues to be on a hot streak here, and he only has a 22-3 record, only losing to Dos Santos, who was on a 7-fight win streak at welterweight. Unfortunately, that ended up by Ling J Liang's hand. No shame in that. Also Ponzinibbio and the champion Kamaru Usman. So you can't blame the guy at all for those losses. Jocko, on the other hand, he does have some really tough setbacks on his record. You see right there, he's lost 2 of his last 5 to Uriah Hall. Tough loss there. And Brad Tavares as well. Both the knockouts. So it would not completely shock me to see Sean Strickland put him out because we've seen somewhat of a shady chin from Jotko. And soon after those losses, he did fight a UFC newcomer, Marc-Andre Barrett in Canada. And I thought that was a for sure win for Jotko. And what happens there? It's a split decision. And I thought you could have given that fight to Marc-Andre because Andre was actually able to control him in the clinch at some points. But that's not what Sean Strickland will do here. He's going to light him up on the feet, and he's going to look really good doing it. And he could possibly get Uriah Hall after this fight because Dana did mention Uriah Hall deserves a quick turnaround after being the only fighter to never throw a strike and win the fight. So that could be next for Sean Strickland. We're going to see a really good fight here on Sean Strickland's part because I think the world of the guy right now.
I absolutely agree with you. That's the only way I see this fight going. You mentioned there, Jocko's been knocked out in the past against Uriah Hall and Brad Tavares. And I think Sean Strickland, in that first round, pieces him up really bad. And in the second round, really puts his lights out. Maybe finishes up against the fence like he did against Allen. But yeah, this guy's his punching, his striking accuracy is incredible. His volume is incredible. He's just really good on the feet. But that's the only way I see it going is Sean Strickland really putting some damage on Jotko in this fight and piecing him up on the feet. It's going to be a great fight. Excited to see Sean Strickland back and that fight with Uriah Hall. That definitely makes a lot of sense if he wins this.
Yeah, 100%. Another fight that made a lot of sense for a long time. Willie and Cody Stayman. We got 2 of the best wrestlers in the bantamweight division going at it. And while Cody Stayman actually has stayed away from the bantamweight division for a little while here, he's took some fights at featherweight against other bantamweights. This could be a tough cut for him coming back, but Merab is huge, man. This guy's big. He loves to use that size to out-grapple guys in spectacular fashion. What he did to Casey Kenny will not leave my mind. Casey Kenny is a really good judoka. He's a black belt in judo, and what he did to Casey Kenny was very impressive. I think he got like 12 takedowns on him. Just crazy statistics on the Merab side here. I believe he landed, 0.4% of all takedowns in 2020 or something crazy. There's nothing that doesn't really impress me about Merab. His cardio looks like it's improving because you did see in that Ricky Simone fight, he was so tired at the end from being stuck in that guillotine. They thought he had passed out, but in my opinion, he did not pass out. And that fight should be run back at some point, possibly after this. But also, I did say Ricky Simone could be fighting Sugar Sean O'Malley. He did say you could be surprised by what you hear about Sugar Sean's next matchup. But another guy who was calling out Sugar Sean was Merab. And Merab will be a nightmare matchup for anybody whose wrestling is not on point. And Cody Stayman's wrestling is on point, but I think Merab is even better on the ground than him. So I think he can ragdoll him. He can probably outstrike him here. Though Cody Stayman in the fight with Jimmy Rivera, he was actually hanging on the feet with him. He was using a jab quite effectively, but we actually saw Jimmy Rivera take him down. So if Merab does it here and does it for 3 rounds quite easily, I won't be surprised. Do you think this fight will be close? Because Merab's a 2-1 favorite.
Yeah, I think this fight is going to be really close. I think in the first round we'll see maybe a striking affair. Both men cancel each other out. Maybe Cody. I'll give the edge to Cody Stayman on the feet. As you mentioned there, in Jimmy Rivera fight, he was using the jab really well, but unfortunately didn't get the nod that night. But Merab Dvalishvili, this guy's incredible. The guy's relentless. I think in the first round he'll throw a lot of strikes, maybe not connect, and in the second round they'll go back to the corner, go back to the stool, and then Ray Longo will get in his ear and say, Merab, we need to get back to basics, and then he'll get back to basics, and then he'll find success. I think he's a much better wrestler than Cody Stayman. So Cody Stayman is an incredible wrestler, but Merab, I just think he's on a different level. I think he's just incredible. This guy's got a lot of potential, 135 pounds. We saw him on the Dana White looking for a fight. That's when he got his contract. Came to the UFC, and then obviously in the first 2 fights he didn't have success, but since then rebounded back, looking like a great hot prospect at 135 pounds. I'm excited to see where he goes. And Cody Stayman versus Merab is a great matchup. It's a great fight. It's going to be a good test for Merab, but I think Merab gets it done.
Yeah, I really think Merab is on his road to the top 5 in this division. He's got the tools to get it done. Any doubt I had about Merab was erased in the Jock Dodson fight, who I think Jock Dodson can still hang with the best of them. What he did to Nathaniel Wood was impressive. So Merab just going out there and getting the 30-27 there was exactly what I needed to see for me to pick him against guys like Cody Stayman. And moving on, we got, Poliana Botejo against Luana Carolina. Botejo is coming off the loss to Jillian Robertson, where she showed that when she's on her back, she's kind of a fish out of water. She really couldn't do anything to get up. She couldn't really do anything that would scare Robertson, of course, from an offensive standpoint. And Carolina, her biggest claim to fame is getting knee barred by Ariane Lipsky. So this is a tough fight to look at when you're thinking about UFC level competition, because you could argue that Luana isn't. Pollyanna is a good enough striker to hang with a lot of the girls in this division, but this is a hard fight to pick. But Pollyanna's going to be meaner. She's going to be in her face, and she's probably going to avoid getting taken down here. This could be a split decision top fight, but we're going to see her get bullied here, honestly. This is not going to be a fun night for either one, because both are going to be in compromising positions. Do you think Pollyanna could knock her out here? Because we have seen her land a large barrage of strikes, and some people actually thought she could finish Jillian when they fought.
Yeah, if you're looking at this fight is definitely going to the distance. As I say, never bet on a women's fight to get finished unless they are the elite of the elite, in that division. Otherwise, it just doesn't really make any sense, because some of these girls don't really possess that power. No disrespect to them, but just don't really possess that power that some of these some of these great girls at the top of the division do possess. But in this fight, I'm going with Pollyanna Bertolo in this fight. I think she gets this one done. As you mentioned in her last fight, she's kind of a fish on the water off her back against Jillian Robertson. But Jillian Robertson is a tremendous black belt in her own right. She training over with Din Thomas. But I think she gets this one to the ground against Leona Carolina. I think she's going to go for that. I think if you look at the height, the reach advantage is in favor of Luana Carolina, but the height advantage is Pollyanna Bertolo, so that's an interesting one. We've seen the long limbs of Carolina. That's what ultimately got her trapped in that knee bar versus who was it? Lipsky, which is one of the, if not maybe the submission of the year in 2020. It was incredible. But yeah, actually, I'm going back and forth on this pick. This was so hard to choose. I'm going to stick with Pollyanna Bertolo and go decision.
Yeah, that's a likely outcome here. Let's transition to these prelims, because in the first fight, headlining the prelims, we do have another women's fight that I expect to go to the judges as well. We have Brandon Marcos and Luana Pinheiro. Marcos has had a tough time in the UFC, but let's not forget she's gotten wins against decent competition, including the champion Carla Esparza and Felice Herrig. She's only lost to really good fighters, She submitted Angela Hale. She has lost to Murata Dern, and who was it before that? Just not an easy time for Marcos, who you got to give her credit. She'll fight anybody, absolutely anybody, but she just falls short against elite competition. And you want to talk about elite competition, that's not what Luana Pinheiro has been fighting. Let's check out those records right there. It's not pretty at all. She fought a girl who was 8-6 on the Contender Series, and it was just a complete blowout on the feet, hence why she got the first round knockout. She's actually been getting a ton of first round finishes in the last couple fights, And Marcos, she's very comfortable going to the judges. And I think that's what happens here. We're going to see Marcos have a wrestling advantage and avoid getting armbarred like Pinheiro does to the lower level competition. So we're going to see Pinheiro stuck on her back and a win for Brandon Marcos, who has a very tough record. That's 10-10-1. That's not good at all. If she loses this, the UFC is probably going to kick her out because it's not a record you want to have on your roster. So this is do or die for Brandon Marcos, and I think she'll thrive here, especially after she went to Travis Luter's gym to improve.
100%. Everything you said there is pretty much spot on. You're choosing Randa Marcos in this fight, but I'm going to ride the wave and potentially bite the bullet. I'm going to go with Liana Peñaheiro. That one was a bit weird to pronounce, but yeah, I'm going to go Liana in this one because primarily the youth. I'm going to go with that. She's 28 years old. Randa Marcos, 30, almost 36 on a 3-fight losing streak. It's not looking good for her. And if she loses one, she'll potentially cut from the UFC. And I think that's how it's going to go. I think we're going to see Luana maybe not pick up a fast submission. She's stepping up in competition throughout the whole fights who she's fought. I think maybe a third round submission from Luana after some grinding out in the first and second. But I'm going to ride the wave and bite the bullet in this one. But please don't bet on this one if you're betting on this one. This one this really could go either way.
Yeah, if you're going to bet anything, bet it to go to the judges. But the next one between Gabriel Benitez and Jonathan Pierce, I don't think this one's going to the judges. Pierce hasn't gone to the judges since 2017, and we just saw Benitez finish a guy who's very tough at Justin James in the first round. So this is going to be a very fun one. We know what Benitez brings to the game. Even though he has like 9 submissions on his record, this guy's a really good striker. His kicks are very hard. In fact, we always like to mention this. Javier Mendez says he's the hardest kicker he's held pads for, and that guy's held pads for some of the greatest kickers of all time. Pierce, right there, he did get that win over Kai Kamaka, the third who's on this card. He got that second round at ground pound, and he really impressed me there because I thought he was on his way out of the UFC after his debut was spoiled by a Joe Lozon who was way over the hill. So once over the hill, Joe Lozon gets to finish you in the first round, I probably will never pick you again, to be honest, unless I see some huge improvements. So Benitez should be able to knock him out here with a spectacular head kick. I say in the first round or in the second round, because his striking will overwhelm him, because Joe Lozon's striking was able to overwhelm him. It's not a case here where Benitez is just terrible on the ground, because he can submit guys. Earlier in his career, he was having a tough time with that, but Pierce just doesn't have that kind of overwhelming grappling like Murab to take it there.
Pitch perfect. Analyze that you've put on that fight, and you say Gabriel Benitez, according to Javier Hernandez, is one of the hardest, or if not the hardest kicker that he's had to have had for. And if you're listening to that, you know that just I don't know, fierce strike into your eyes. Someone who would know a lot about that is Justin James. The knee to the body ultimately finished that fight. But a lot of his kicks are very powerful, as we mentioned. Drop it down to 145 pounds. He previously fought 145, a brief stint at 155, but now back down to 145. So in this one, I'm going to go with Gabriel Benitez. I'm going to go for a finish quite early on. I think the kicks are going to land early. I think they're going to clip him in the ribs, and we're going to see Jonathan Pierce maybe drop via a body kick, and Gabriel Benitez finishes out with strikes. But this guy Jonathan Pierce, he's no joke. He's tall. He's 6 foot. He's got that reach advantage, only but half an inch, but that won't really play a factor in this fight. But he's got that reach advantage, the height advantage. I mean, he's 6 foot compared to 5'8". Yeah, not much to really talk about this fight, but I think Gabriel Benitez gets this one done in the first round, and we're going to see a TKO.
Yeah, another. The next one is another matchup between two fight prospects. Kai Kamaka III, of course, he just lost to our guy JSP that we just talked about, and he's fighting TJ Brown, who's not had an easy time in the octagon at all. Danny Chavez was able to pick him apart, and I really expected a guy like TJ Brown, who's really good on the ground, especially coming from that Glory MMA camp with James Krause. Man, James Krause's guys fight nearly every weekend. That guy's working overtime. Kakamaka third, even though this guy loves to strike, loves to bang. His debut was against Tony Kelly. He had Tony Kelly hurt a couple times there. He's never gotten a knockout on his record. So I don't think he'll be able to do that here, but the disparity in the power here will probably that'll probably give him the win here against TJ Brown, who's good on the ground, but just has not shown it against the best of competition. He's one of these guys from the Contender Series that who of course he won in the Contender Series, but right after that you saw him lose a couple, possibly telling you that Contender is not end all be all when it comes to thriving in the UFC. So I'm going with Kai Kamaka here, but it's not confident at all. TJ Brown can 100% take it to the ground, just like JSP did. So this is a tough one to pick. Who you signing here?
I'm going with Kai, your boy Kamaka. And I was going to say, hey, Eric, your boy Anders, but no, Kai, your boy Kamaka. This guy is I had the pleasure to talk to him before. He's very humble, very good to talk to, and I'm going to root for him in this one. Only young, only 26 years of age. He's got a lot of a bright future in front of him. He's 5'7" compared to 5'9" of TJ Brown. TJ Brown got that reach advantage. If he could keep it at range, that reach advantage can really play a massive factor. But I see Kai Kamaka, maybe getting inside, dirty boxing. TJ Brown but Kai Kamaka loves a scrap. He's Hawaiian. That's all you really have to say. These Hawaiians do love a scrap. The Luta get in there, just throw punches. And that could be his biggest downfall, though, in the fight. If he gets caught into this game too much with TJ Brown, he could get clipped, could get taken down. It's a lot of risks of having a scrap, standing and trading. But I think Kamaka sorts that out and maybe picks TJ Brown apart for 15 minutes.
Absolutely. We did see TJ Brown get picked apart by Danny Chavez. Kakamaka loves to take those risks and just throw those hands, and I think he'll score enough points to get the justice decision. The next one up, we got Loma Kabumi and Sam Hughes. I'll be short and sweet with this one. Loma has about 100 Muay Thai fights. Over in Thailand, they love to fight nice and young, and that's what she did. And the experience in MMA may not be massive, but that Muay Thai experience is going to play a big factor here. And that striking is very impressive. In her fight with Jimmy Frey, whenever she got her in the clinch, it was straight up a beating. So I think that's what she does to Sam Hughes here, who lost her debut against Tisha Torres. No shame in that, but that was a doctor stoppage. I believe she said she couldn't see out her left eye. She immediately regretted it. And Loma Kabumi could also stop her here because with those elbows they'll cut her up very easily. And Loma's just gonna have an awesome showcase here. And Sam Hughes might be on her way out after this. She's very young. The type of competition she fought was not impressive at all. This is not gonna be a fun night for Sam Hughes. I'll keep it right there. There's not much to break down on Sam Hughes' side. Her game plan heading into that fight with Tisha Torres was to pin her up against the fence, and that's really not smart against somebody like Tisha Torres, who's very physically strong, who will just reverse that on you and take you down. But if Sam Hughes does get to the ground, I still think that Loma wins because she can get some elbows going off of her back, and every round starts on the feet. So Loma will get her in the clinch and beat her up. That's about as simple as it is.
100%. You mentioned there the Lomas, her Muay Thai record, 100+ fights. If you're fighting in Muay Thai, you're from Thailand, you're fighting in Muay Thai, you're fighting literally, I don't know what it is, probably every week, every month. It's incredible. They fight so regularly over there. It's ridiculous. And as you mentioned there, I think, Loma Lookbar gets this one into the clinch, gets Sam Hughes, and just puts on a beating on her inside the clinch. She has that loss against Angela Hill. Angela Hill, she's a great Muay Thai fighter herself. But that was a good learning experience for her, fighting such a experienced fighter in Angela Hill. But Sam Hughes is not as experienced. Same record, 5-2, both women. Loma Lookbar also, she's 5'1", 62 reach advantage. This is a tricky one to choose, but I'm going to have to go with a confident pick with Loma. I think she gets this one done. She's going to be nasty inside them clinch, and then raise the elbows and light her up inside the clinch. Then elbows will come over the top and then absolutely cut her open. And we might even see another doctor stoppage.
Yeah, absolutely. Those elbows from her were very gnarly against Jin Yufrey, and she'll get the judge's decision here. We know the PFL is airing right now. We don't want to keep you guys for too long. We'll just wrap up with these next two prelims. We got Andres Michailidis against KB Bolar. Bolar had a terrible debut. He got knocked out in under 2 minutes by Tom Breeze. He got completely pieced up by that jab. That was a stellar performance by Tom Breeze. And I think Michailidis is going to have another stellar performance here. He's got a lot of power in his hands. Of course, he had a tough debut against your boy, Modestas Bukauskas. And who really doesn't have a tough fight with Modestas? That guy has a lot of power in his hands as well, so they really couldn't trade as easily. But I don't think Michailidis is going to respect KB, especially after he got dropped by a jab. So I think he's going to let his hands go early and get the first round knockout. KB has a good ground game, but there's just not a lot of tape on this guy. He hasn't fought the best competition. I've said that a ton of times on this card, but when you haven't shown your skills against the best of competition, it's kind of hard to pick you. So we're going to see an early knockout here for Michailidis. And it's pretty surprising that this guy fought at light heavyweight. He's only 6 feet tall. He's back where he belongs at middleweight, and it's going to be a good win for him.
Yeah, you mentioned there back at middleweight, fought light heavyweight in his debut. Back at middleweight now, back where he belongs. And as you mentioned, as you said there, he's going to get that. We've seen KB Buller in his last fight, get dropped via jab and finished off with hammer fists. And I think in this fight, you kind of put a nail on the head. I think he's not going to really respect the power and come in swinging and clip him early.
Yeah, absolutely. In the next one, in the opening fight of the night, we do have Luke Sanders against Felipe Corrales. And I was very shocked to see Luke Sanders as a favorite here, because he was a favorite in his last fight against Nate Maness. And he did have some success early on, but we actually saw Nate Maness being the one to clip him and eventually submit him here. So we're going to see a club and sub here by Felipe Corrales. This guy's got really good kickboxing, and he's got most of his wins by submission. So this is exactly the kind of guy I want to fight Luke Sanders, because Luke Sanders has shown poor fight IQ and submission defense in the past. So this is going to be a really good win for the underdog, Felipe Corrales, who's going to be able to stick around longer in the fight than Luke Sanders. Luke Sanders actually faded in the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds of the second round. So a guy like Corrales, who does have a third round submission on his record, that's tailor made for him to win here. And he'll choke out Luke Sanders and maybe give him his walking papers in the UFC.
Wow. What a breakdown from Oscar. That's exactly, to be honest, that's exactly how the fight's going to go. I think Luke Sanders will get rocked early, and the submission will come in against Felipe, and eventually, put his lights out on his back, and we'll see the end of the fight. And Luke Sanders, as you said there, might get the walking papers after this. Beat a legend inside the octagon. Remember how? But we've seen him lose against Nate Maness, and I think he loses back-to-back fights here, and we see Felipe get that submission win, and I think he'll get it early. I think he keeps Luke Sanders early and gets that submission.
Yeah, that after that last fight, that's the last time I'm picking Luke Sanders.
Well, that pretty much wraps it up for UFC Fight Night. Reyes versus Prochazka. Great weekend of fights. Great main event. An absolute stellar co-main event, which I'm definitely going to be tuning in for. PFL's right on right now. If you're not watching that, I may watch it after the live stream. And we hope you have a good fight this weekend. We hope there's some great fights. Everyone enjoys their weekend. And peace and love from me and Oscar. A very goodbye. We'll see you next week.